I'm Mark Yamamoto, Senior Vice President of Mercari, based in Tokyo, Japan. So I'm very excited to be here. So today in this session, we're going to cover the design and AI initiative that Mercari is doing. But before jumping in detail from my end, allow me to brief introduction of the Mercari itself. So Mercari is a Japan-based company that doing the C2C marketplace. So C2C means the marketplace where anyone can sell and buy anything. So that's Mercari. So Mercari is a 13 years old company. So we are the public company and listed on the Tokyo prime market. But currently, the GMB, annual GMB is about 7.3 billion yen, US dollar, and 23 million MAU. So that size is America. So it's a bit difficult to explain how we grow in US dollar because the Japanese yen is getting weaker and weaker right now. So, but still we continue the double-digit growth. Okay. So as I mentioned, the Mercari is a C2C marketplace, but we have added the more service on top of the C2C marketplace. So we add the fintech service like the payment, credit service, and also the crypto, so that the users who have the sales proceed, they can use that sales proceed to buy something with our payment service, or that they can buy the Bitcoin and so on with the sales proceed. And also we expand to the cross-border business as well. So we have tons of the listing item in Japan, and many item is related to the anime, comic, game, and entertainment. So this item is very popular to here in the US and also all over the world. So we enable that inventory to the world. So that is a cross-border business. And also we enable to the business, the shopper, to list their item on the C2C marketplace. So the Mercari ecosystem itself is expanding. So that's Mercari. And related to the AI, so many companies, maybe in this room, same as the of you, we are very much focusing on migrate to AI native. So when we say AI native, it doesn't mean that just enable AI as a tool to the organization. So we are trying to rebuild literally everything to AI native. For example, we change how the employee work with AI, and we change entire the organizational structure or the organizational rule or evaluation, the procedure, and so on with AI. And also, we change the product with AI. I mean, the enable the AI functionality to the customers. So we are doing the many AI native initiative in Mercari. So today we are presenting to you about how AI works with the design and so on. So from now, I hand it over to my the colleagues, Motoki and Aki. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Would you all like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm excited to be here. My name is Motoki. I'm in charge of BPO product engineering. Yeah, and next is Aki.
Yeah, thank you for having us. My name is Aki. I'm a principal designer at Mercari, and I lead the design system.
Well, thank you all again for being here. I know design systems is a topic near and dear to all of your hearts because you came to this session, but also my own. And this is something that we've been spending a lot of time working on at Figma as we make this transition into a more AI-enabled sort of development process and how design systems and AI work together. And one of the things that really struck us when we were meeting with folks was the advanced sort of how distributed folks are on this path. Some have sort of really jumped into it and gone whole hog, and some are a bit more like dipping their toe in it. And there's a lot to be learned by folks who've experimented and done quite a bit here. So with that, I'll jump into a set of questions because I've got a bunch, and I'm sure you want to hear all of them. So first up, one of the conversations we had was about how AI amplifies whatever foundation already exists in your design system. And one of the things we found at Figma is that organizations that have made an investment in their design system and really an additional context of any sort have really benefited from the way AI uses that. I'm curious how this informs your approach to building as well as evolving your own design and the components within that design.
Sure. I think before we jump into the answer, I just want to make things like this. Building has become so easy right now that even like non-designers or non-engineers could actually start building. So we kind of opened the gates for everyone to build. And I think that's where building that solid foundation really becomes more important than ever. So we at Mercari, we're kind of opening up everyone to become a product builder. So if anyone has an idea, they can just use AI to create that into a prototype, or they can share it with colleagues and get feedback. But we want to make sure that those prototypes or those designs are actually built on our design system. So I think, or like anyone could build any prototype, but at the end of the day, it should look like what Mercari is, right? So we had to make sure that we're supplying that foundation layer so anyone can actually build. Yeah.
Yeah, from the engineering perspective, as Aki said, our design system is kind of foundation or platform. It should be agnostic, and many employees, and including engineers and designers, will touch the design system through like the cloud code or in the Figma canvas and design. But it should be rigid, and we should provide a consistency. And so that, I believe that our design system should be the infrastructure of our product development.
So it sounds like one of the questions I get a lot is, will Figma introduce guardrails, or how do we stop sort of people from going out of bounds and doing things that are off-brand, since everyone, as you say, can be a builder now? And one of the things is we want to encourage everyone to be a builder. We don't want to actually be gatekeepers around that. But it sounds like you've very much taken the approach of enabling folks to do the right thing by default.
Exactly.
Like just kind of creating the gilded path for folks and then let them follow that.
Yeah, I think the other approach is we don't really want to limit like the workflow to be one single workflow. So we want our employee, like our coworkers, to use whatever tool they're comfortable with. So designers are comfortable with Figma. That's why we created design systems built in Figma. And one of the advantages that we had was like using Code Connect. So each component on Figma had actually the actual code built into each component. So when LLMs actually read the designs, they build it exactly as an engineer would build it. It's not like gibberish code. It would actually use the design system code that we have. And the other thing is like engineers weren't really comfortable with using Figma. So we had to make sure that everyone could use whatever tool that they're comfortable with, but the result should be the same. Like the result should always be like quality level production code that is used by all the systems at the same time. So we really had to make sure that the design system not only lived in Figma, but also code side, and they're all connected with each other.
Yeah. I think this is a question I've gotten a lot over the last couple of days as folks have come into town is, what do you consider the source of truth now when it comes to design system? Is it the library file in Figma? Is it code in your repo? Is it something else? How did you approach that?
Go ahead.
I think Code Connect was a game changer for us. Before the Code Connect, we tried lots of prototyping tools, but it didn't provide any consistency. And also, there's a messy code provided from the prototypes tools. But we wanted some tools that can connect with the code bases components and also the canvas components. And also, with that consistency, we can build right prototypes.
Something else we've observed is like a general trend, and it's accelerated, of course, by moving to AI, is that a design system means something more than it did before. I think it was true several years ago that you could sort of represent everything about a design system as a numeric value, whether that was a corner radius or a color hex code or something. There was like a very literal token that could be used there. But now with LLMs generating more of the actual output, a lot more comes into this, whether that's typography rules or brand voice or other things. What changes did you need to make to the design system to actually incorporate this and to allow the LLMs to really provide something that was on brand beyond just the numeric values?
Yeah, I think we had to kind of rethink our design system from the ground up. I think a lot of, like you mentioned, a lot of design systems are like are static in a way where like everything was pre-coded into them. We also had to go above and beyond, because like there was a lot of things that were like common sense for designers. Like, for example, you couldn't stack these components together, but like you had to make sure that LLMs also understood that. So we had to go a step forward to also include those kind of rules and do's and don'ts. So we saw ourselves including more and more rules on each component, which in the past, we assumed that designers already knew. So we literally had to be more literal about what you can do or cannot do with the components. Also, one other thing is, for example, we used to allow a lot of overriding on our design system. So for example, designers could change the color or change the token to another token. But we saw that if we gave that power to LLMs, they would just go crazy with it. And then, so we had to build everything as a property into the component itself. So it's very tricky because you have to be a bit rigid with the LLM, but you have to also be flexible for the designers to work. So you have to kind of find that balance in between.
Yeah, this brings me to my next question about this. Like, you've got a single design system that is meant to be consumed by both humans as well as AI. But humans and AI consume these in very different ways. Yeah. So what are the best practices or techniques you needed to do to enable that?
Yeah, I think for humans, like I mentioned, you need to have more flexibility. Because the way we do it is like for humans, we usually supply design systems at an atom level. And then we would allow designers to combine those atoms to create their own components. But for AI, when you give it that freedom, it sometimes goes like off script and starts creating these new components that does not look like Mercari at all. So with AI, you have to give it more layouts. It's like, this is how a form would look like. This is how a log screen would look like. Whereas in humans, you don't want to be really that restrictive. You want to give that chance for a designer to be more creative.
Got it. And what was the format that you used to get this to the AI? Is this like, are these skills, are these markdown files, are they guidelines? Like maybe you experimented with a few.
Yeah, we experimented with a few. Actually, when we first started, our design system spec library lived in Figma because it was easier for designers to use. So it has everything documented in Figma. Then we kind of, AI was having a hard time to read that. So what we did is actually, we created a skill that went through all the Figma files and then uploaded it to a Notion database. And then we had LLMs read from that Notion database. But then we realized that the Notion base was a bit restrictive. You couldn't have animations and stuff like that. So we actually created another skill that would read the component, understand it, and it would create a kind of a storybook HTML page automatically by itself. And the way it does it is actually you give it a link to one component, and it will spend like 1 hour trying to understand what this component is. So it actually goes and sees what other design systems and how that component is treated and becomes an expert, and then comes back and writes this whole page. So it was amazing to see like the amount of detail that it would go through. And then we have just a human to check that the document that it created. So I think like the format is really changing the more we explore. So
This is really innovative. So like when we had this conversation about this, I had to double check that you're saying you've got the AI actually looking at the code and the component and then generating the documentation that's meant to be used by AI.
exactly.
I mean, I like that. You're going full send on the AI there. That's great. One of the things here is that DS has become, or design systems rather, have become sort of as you mentioned, the atomic building block. Like this is it's almost a contract between designers and AI in order to get this going. I'm curious, as this has become the foundation, what did you have to change in terms of components or how they were built, documented beyond sort of the AI generating that, or maintained? And did this change anything about who could contribute to the components and who could, like how people consume them?
So I actually have a graph here. Like at Mercari, I think we're giving everyone the ability to become a product builder. So it's kind of a new role at Mercari. I was like, it's not product building is not limited to any specific role now. So it's limited to everyone. And I think with that, actually, what happens is like when you get more people building, building becomes so much easier, but then judgment becomes so hard. So the reason is because like each domain, they were kind of professionals in their realm, but now they're expanding into more areas, which they usually don't have that much knowledge into. So in order to enable this, what we did is actually we did these sessions in our company where we taught engineers how to become designers, and we taught designers how to become engineers. Not going like fully deep into it, but like just to have common knowledge about how to set up a GitHub repo, and then how code works and all that kind of stuff. And same goes for engineer. It was like, what makes a good design, what hierarchy looks like, what all of that. And I thought it was really beneficial for everyone because now roles are kind of starting to overlap. So it's really important to have these kind of sessions to teach people the basic knowledge of what design is and what engineering is.
Yeah. I'm curious how engineering felt as an engineer. I'm curious how engineering felt with this sort of like, like it feels like, I know exactly what you're saying, but as you say this to me, I'm like, okay, so yeah, repo, of course you would have to use that, but typography rules and hierarchy, like hold on now. So like, how was that received by engineering?
Yeah, we just started this challenges in this few months, and also many engineers tried to build clear design files, but the quality is kind of 40 points or 50 points still. So our learnings from that challenge is we have to having sessions like hands-on or lessons about the entry-level designs for engineers. And I think it's vice versa. Designers also need to understand what the engineering is. And so, bi-directional challenges will be needed for the future, this initiative.
Yeah. I wonder if you could go back to the slide with the sort of roles converging, because this is a theme we hear a lot about, and I'm sure all of you have been reading and contributing to this as well. To the product, all of this merging into a product builder role. There are a couple thoughts I have about this. One is, So something that I described to someone is that AI makes us all sort of like good amateurs at the two disciplines we're not already in, but not necessarily experts. And I think this is what you're describing in terms of like having formal education around this, even if it's like something that's happened in a weekend or over the course of a week. That's going to happen one way or the other. It might happen in code reviews, or it might happen in like someone having a one-to-one session afterwards, but it's really important. I think more formalized is better. But I'm curious your perspective on the roles of this coming together. Do you still see value in having these as separate functions within the organization?
Yeah, I think just going to a different slide. So I think one thing is product building used to be a straight line, right? You relied on the designer to kind of have the whole product mapped out. And then once that is done, there will be a handoff to engineering. So it was really like handshaking from one person to another. So each person was reliant on the person before. Whereas I think right now, what happens is it becomes like a loop, right? It could start at any point. Like an engineer has an idea, they could use AI to build it into a product. And then a designer would take a look at it, and then they would see where the problems is, and then they would fix it. So it's like, in a way, we're not removing roles, whereas it's just merging everything together. So the start point does not have to come from one point. It could come from any point in the loop. And then we have the domain experts looking at it and making sure that it's up to standard.
Yeah, I think something that's interesting about the loop metaphor is that I think in that linear view before, one of the things we tried to do with our processes and our best practices was to how quickly could we get through that? Like that was sort of the gold standard, is how quickly could we get through so we could get to launch. And sometimes we would reduce scope, sometimes we would reduce quality. There was just any number of levers there. But when we get into the loop, it's a bit more of how quickly can you iterate in those loops for learning and actually getting something in front of someone and getting, whether that's a customer or in-house, and getting immediate feedback. So those iterations on the learning loops are something that are critical, but it doesn't have that, to your point, it doesn't have the origin and the destination as much anymore. It's like anyone can generate the idea, and as a good teammate now, you have to be a caretaker of that idea and actually, give it the yes and treatment, even if your initial response is, man, this is not what I would have done, or something along those lines.
Yeah, also to add a point to this as well, like, for example, in the past, so designers used to have the vision of the product, right? But then code used to be like the wall that blocked the designer from accomplishing their vision. So that's where engineer kind of helped out. But sometimes things get lost. Like a designer would imagine something in a way that they want to build it, but then it's very hard to convey that to an engineer. So I think that where really AI helps, as like a designer right now could use an LLM to build a mock-up of like, I want the animation to look like this, exactly like this, right? Where in the past you would say, yeah, I want this to transition like this, and just so.
I'm sure nobody in this room has had that experience of an engineer not quite delivering on what you're asking for. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe this sounds very specific to you.
Very specific to me, yeah.
Like, I have always delivered exactly what design has asked for. But okay, that's a fair point. Yeah. Something, again, along those lines is, because you have this loop now and everyone can contribute at each phase, how do you manage or what are your expectations around people contributing to the design system? Like a design system is sort of a living thing all the time. There's always new components that are coming in. People find new use cases. Before, that was something that would like get sent to the front of the line to have this whole process.
Exactly.
But what happens now?
I think now, so actually our design system was like, in order to add anything to the design system, you had to come through us, right? You would come to the design systems like
the quality standard review board?
No, like even building the component itself.
Okay.
So like there used to come requests to the design system team. It was like, we want this component, for example. But now we function more as an open contribution model. Because like building this stuff is much easier and anyone can do it. But we're still kind of the checkers, right? We need to check that the quality is there, but it's like it really kind of makes the process much faster because like now people are coming in with like ready-made components or that they wanted to add to the design system, and we're just kind of reviewing those. So it speeds up the process a lot for us. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, give us a context on this topic. And we have a design system team, but we have only designer. him, Aki.
That is the
yeah,
team.
Yeah, he's only.
That is the team.
And also, we have 2 engineers per platform, iOS, Android, and web. So total around 7 or 8 members. They are only the design system team. So they needed to review from the hundreds of engineers in our company. Yeah, that's a huge block.
So we were like 7 people, and then our users were like 200 people. So we couldn't really manage that. So it was like, that's why we opened the open contribution model.
I see. Again, I'm sure this is something none of you can relate to, is having like a totally understaffed design system team relative to the rest of your engineering org. But I am curious, how do you, like now it sounds like there's sort of this federated model where people build as needed and contribute. But how do you decide what stays within that immediate team and what is something that any team can bring to the table? Like what are the swim lanes there and how do you keep them separate? If they need to be?
As Mark showed before, so Mercari is not just one product. We have multiple products and they each come with their own crazy ideas, right? So we had to make sure that the design system would support all these. So what we did is we built it in 2 layers. So we had the foundation layer where it's mostly like atom-based components where basically designers or anyone else can combine to create components. And then we ask each domain to create their own local library based on these atoms. And we also built into the design system branding, theming. So you can build themes into the design system. So for example, one brand uses red color, rounded corners. We have that built into the design system. And with one click, they can switch the brand to the other service where it's like, let's say black is the main color, it's more rigid, straight corners, spacing is different. So we map the tokens and how they switch from one brand to the other. But like I said, we keep the foundation layer very atomic base. And like each team would have to create their own local library based on those.
Got it. This is something that's maybe popping up a level. We hear it quite a bit. If creating code now is relatively cheaper, where are the new bottlenecks? Because obviously engineering was always the bottleneck. It was always, we knew that. But now that has, I'm not going to say it's free, but it's become cheaper in terms of effort and time. What have you seen as becoming the new bottlenecks and what needed to happen to address that?
I think for us, at first it was alignment, right? That's where I think the design system really saved us. But then after we had alignment, I think judgment became the next bottleneck. So it's very tricky to say like, what makes Mercari Mercari? I mean, even if you ask our designers, they'll have a hard time answering you. Because like, they've worked on the product for such a long time that it becomes natural to them what it should look like. So our challenge was, how do we translate that into a set of rules for LLMs or even non-designers to understand? So we had to kind of rethink the whole design system, because it's not just a library of components anymore. It needs to have patterns. It needs to have hierarchy. Even it needs to have built-in principles into it as like how to use it. Like at Mercari, do we usually place buttons on the top or bottom? What's the size of the button and all that kind of stuff? So we had to really dive deeper into a lot of the things and just try to figure out like what makes our product, and really build that into a set of rules and add it to the design system.
So you had to like go and get the intrinsics and actually make that explicit so that AI can consume and go with that.
And I wouldn't say that it's like, because like it's a really, really hard
Yeah.
thing to do, right? Like I said, it's like it comes to designers as a natural, like as something that they've like built throughout their years. So it's something like I think we're still exploring other like what's the best way to do it as well.
Yeah, about the code screen generation, we have double productivity compared with simply using Cloud Code or coding agents. So we could have success on that perspective. As I says, we have to deep dive into the what designers do in the process. In our product development process, we have open door to review the design files, and it takes huge time for designers and also product managers. And so we started to deep dive into the verbalizing the process of the what designers thinks in the open doors, and we wanted to convert them into agents or skills to get the right design in our companies product.
Yeah, it's I continue to be amazed at how much of, and it's obviously a gross oversimplification, but how much of dealing with AI is just writing something down, like the set of things that you take for granted or that you have like just become lore within the company or culture, but now needs to be explicitly described. And I'm also surprised at how hard that is. It's like just not easy. It seems like it's just writing words, but there's a bit to it. So you mentioned that like Code Connect ended up being a step up and a leveler for you. And I'm sure like everyone's really excited about what they should do. On the flip side, there's curious, like, was there a mistake or something, a path you went down that didn't work that folks might want to be aware of?
Yeah, I think before that, we actually have a demo video to showcase how Code Connect really worked for us. So you can see here, we had a screen built in Figma, and then this is an empty local page. And if you just copy the link to it, and then paste it into an LLM and ask it to build it. So usually the LLM would look at the screen and try to replicate it and build. I think what's important here is, if you can see, probably not here, but like a few seconds later, you can see here where it actually imports the design system components themselves into the code. I think that's where it's really important, is like, so usually when you connect an MCP to a design that does not have Code Connect, engineers, and then you hand it off to engineers, they're usually very mad about it. Because like most of the time they would have to just rewrite the whole thing, right? But what we saw in this is like, this actually takes us almost 90% of the way. And there was only some small tweaks that engineers had to do. So yeah, they were very happy about it, actually.
I feel the need to defend engineers and just saying it's not that, I know there's this impression, especially amongst our design friends, that engineers are lazy and don't want to do these things. It is not that. It is that we're trying to be efficient,
Exactly,
and not want to like re-implement things. It may look exactly the same, but the motivation is totally different.
Yeah.
I cannot avoid talking about technical issues. We have multiple generations of design system, but the newest one, design system 4, is solid, and we can achieve what we see in the demo video. But we have tens of hundreds of screens of the design system 3 or design system 2, and we cannot do this with those legacy design system.
Does that imply that you are trying to get people to migrate to V4? And does this help in actually getting them to do that migration, to upgrade, or I guess upgrade?
Huge motivation to motivate to. But I think that it was difficult conversation about those migrations, and it's a real world issue in product development.
Yeah. Also, one of the issues we had is like, so Mercari, we build natively on all platforms. So we have iOS, Android, and web as well. And in the past, designers would have to kind of create 3 patterns of every layout. And that was just too much work. So what we did is with Code Connect, you can actually connect multiple code sources to one single component. So even though designers would only build one screen, but LLMs would have to access the code for all 3 platforms. So it really brought down the work to like a third, because like instead of building all 3 screens, you only had to build it once. And the beauty of it is like, even some components, even though they look differently, but it would actually know how each component would look like on each different platform. So that was actually one of the things that really helped us a lot.
Awesome. I know we're coming up on time. Is there anything else that you would want to just sort of like let folks know about or want to highlight as part of the process, either on the engineering or design side?
One thing, so even if we have those agent skills or LLM, and I think expertise should still be important for our processes. Building this system needs deep expertise, I believe, and we also need platform expertise or knowledges like iOS, Android for web, and because we have different approaches providing context. Like for web, we have plugin, and we have agents for Android, and also we build skills for iOS. And we have different approaches on each platforms. So, but I think there are many contexts behind it. But yeah, and so the expert is still important even with AI.
It's interesting. So different approaches per platform, and it's really okay. That is interesting. And then on the one question I had was about the skills, because you're leveraging a bunch of those. Any advice on writing skills? I think like there's a couple 100,000 YouTube videos you could watch now about like this is the quickest way to write a skill, but it's not always clear that's the best way. Someone who's sort of been through it, what did you learn about writing skills that we should be aware of?
I think exploration is very, very important. Like no skill is going to work from the first time, right? You have to kind of build it, test it, build again and test and see what until it works. So also like I think one thing for us, like we kind of built so many skills that we lost count.
Okay.
So after we built all these skills, it was important to go back and see how we connected those skills together. So it's important to also have those skills work with each other as well. So sometimes like you would have different people building different skills. So at Mercari, we kind of created this database where everyone kind of shared their skills over there. And now we're trying to figure out how to create kind of this master skill that could take you from idea to production in just one skill, right?
Using the library of skills.
Exactly, using a library of skills.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the advice you had to share with us today. And if you all could give our guests a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.